What is going on, guys? It's your boy back again with another video. Today we're going to do our yearly deck list ranking with the current meta decks and whatnot and stuff. So without further ado, we're just going to get straight into it. No breaks, we're just going to get right into it. First deck we have up, Ancient Box. Now, I see the vision behind Ancient Box. I see that you want to get those ancient cards discarded with cards like Ultra Ball to get your Flutter Mains and Roaring Moons, and also ability lock with Flutter Mane in the active. However, the only way I see that truly working if it was also immune to EXs to decks like Crustle. But it's okay right now. It's not bad. It just needs a little bit more support for the active, like, sort of ability lock like Iron Thorns. But for now, I'd say, because I've never played it, I know the strategy with it, but I'm just going to put it in C for now because it needs more support. Now, Azumarill, if you got a Terra Pokemon in play, it attacks for 1 energy, but also does 52 itself. I see the vision behind it, just like Ancient Box. It just needs more support with a card to give it more HP, or Legacy Energy, or that sort of stuff, with, indeed, the 50 damage to itself with Giga Impact or Takedown. But there is a vision behind it. I see that, and it's also a C tier. Okay, let me get a breath. Next up, we've got Iono's Belly Bolt. Never played with it. Let's put it in D, just because I've never played with it. I don't think there's much of a strategy behind it. It's just really powered up, use the ability, get the attacks out. Next, Blaziken Greninja. This is a good deck at its core. It's not consistent enough with its engine, and the engine here being Tatsugiri. As you know, or if you don't know, Tatsugiri, it's a fire, water, and dark energy, and you attack, you look at the top 10 cards of your deck, pick any Pokemon, it can be any stage, you put them directly onto your bench. However, if they're not in the top 10 cards of your deck, you can't get those Pokemon onto your bench, and it's not consistent enough to truly be every single time you're getting something good. But what the ideal setup would be to have 2 Greninjas, 2 Blazikens, and 1 Dusknoir / extra Tatsugiri. That can be hard to do, but if you do it, it's a very powerful deck, good at bench sniping with Mirage Barrage, because you discard those 2 energy, bring them back with your 2 Blazikens, and you're set. It does have counters to big decks like Gholdengo, with Blaziken being an attacker also, not only just a bench support, because you can attack when you need to. And with that, it's a high B tier, almost an A tier. There is a vision behind it. It just needs that more consistency with that Tatsugiri engine. Now we're gonna move on to a deck that was going into Worlds probably a pretty good deck, but coming out of Worlds we realized that it's really not the best. And that deck is gonna be Blissey because the other meta decks were just too powerful for it. Blissey, at its core, you want to switch the energies around and stuff. You want to use the lucky bonus for prize trading and skewing the prize. But in the end, it's really just one of those decks that is not consistent enough to get everything in the prizes, and it's ending up in C tier. Next, Ceruledge. I actually played against the Ceruledge today. It was with my current deck, which I'll reveal in a little bit. But it's good at its core. But as soon as you hit, like, any Gardevoir deck, any other deck that can disrupt its engine and get cards out of its discard, it falls apart. But for that, I think it's a low B, high C. Next up we got Charizard, probably one of the top 10 decks in the format right now, I would say. It is a very consistent deck if you can set up that Pidgeot draw engine, but if you can't, it can be quite hard to set up your Zards and stuff, because you can, of course, with the Pidgeot, go for things like Rare Candy, your evolutions, your energies and stuff. So it's our first A tier, but it's like middle of A. Next deck is Conkeldurr, which I recently saw a video of an expanded format where you can get it up to almost 1,000 HP, which is like genuinely shocking. However, this might not be the Black Bolt White Flare Conkeldurr. It might be the older one, I think from, I want to say Temporal Forces, but I'm going to count that as the newer Conkeldurr because that deck has seen way more play. I don't understand the Brute Bonnet because I haven't really looked at this deck before, but just because I haven't really heard of it and it's an okay deck, I would just probably put it like middle C next to Ancient Box. Next is one of the big hitters of this video, Dragapult Dusknoir. I personally myself had played this deck for quite a while before switching to another one, which I will reveal later. It is good in its own way. It's very consistent with that draw engine from Airmail or Recon Directive. If you can set it up quite consistently, it can be better. It can beat Gardevoir. It's got a neutral matchup into Raging Bolt, I would say. But as long as you can have at least 2 Dragapults on the field, at least 1 Dracloak, because you get the draw engine, and then 2 Dusknoirs for extra KO when you need, this is a very consistent engine. So I'm probably going to put this as the first S tier, just because of the consistency, how good it is, and everything they can do. Okay, now we're moving on to Feraligatr, which was, when it came out, it won the City League in Japan and just then fell off. Nobody played it anymore. But I feel like it's got a spark to it, because if you can play Brave Bangle with it, as well as Luxurious Cape, you can be knocking out these Stage 2 EXs with a single prizer, and also in one turn. Because if you play it with Relicanth, and you're able to use Reverse Thrust and bring in something like Mimikyu, just to be like a kind of a wall, and give it a rescue board, this is something that like has the thing that has magic to it, and you have to play Monkey Dories to move that damage back off to the other side of the field. It's definitely high B, because I like this deck a lot personally, and I think there's a lot of potential if there are any new cards that can possibly support it in the mega sets and anything after that. So as long as it's in the format, it's still a contender for winning tournaments and stuff. Alright, Festival Lead, another deck that I think is very viable. It just needs some ways to do more damage to the big Stage 2 decks, because even with a full five bench and Festival Grounds, you're still doing 200. But if you were to play a card like Brave Bengal with it, where you can do, or Maximum Bout actually, Maximum Bout does 50 more damage, but you're still only doing 250, which is not a lot in Stage 2 decks. It's also, Gholdengo also resists it too, which makes it even more harder to make it more viable. So for me, this is high C, very, maybe B tier. Yeah, it's B tier for me. Yeah, so it's just, it needs more consistency and damage output, but if it has that, it's a lot better than people make it out to be. Also, it's also single prizer, so you're not quite losing as many prizes to your opponent as you should be. Next one. Okay, Flareon, or is that like Terrabox, I guess? With Wellspring and stuff? Yeah, I guess. It is good. I played against it quite a bit. I get the point behind it, but it's really just like, it needs, like, there's so many different Pokemon and so many different kinds of energy in that deck, that if you prize the wrong type of energy, and you prize your Luminous energy, it's hard to recover from what you've lost in the situation to actually win the game. But for me, it is a B tier because it is a consistent deck. I'd say it would if you have the weakness to water, well, no, Greninja's fighting, so I'd probably put it above Blaziken Greninja, just because it did have an okay showing at Worlds, and it wasn't the worst deck to play, and it can still contend with the big players. But it's not quite in that tier of like Charizard or Dragapult. Yeah, so let's move on. The next one is Chien-Pao. I don't really know how this deck works, but I know that one of my friends plays it, and he thinks it's really good. So I'll probably put it in low B for him, because I've seen that he can win with it. I don't know the strategy, but I can always learn that. So, yeah. Now, we have Froslass Munkidori, which I'm also going to treat as Marnie's Grimmsnarl, because that is like what everyone plays with it, because it's the dark archetype. You get the energy out. It works on a lot of wall decks with their abilities. It's just generally a good deck, but what I see with it is that it's just a weaker version of Dragapult, because with Dragapult, you put down 200 damage to the active and 60 to the bench, where Marnie's Grimmsnarl is just 180 to the active and 30 to the bench, so it's half of what it should be. I do see that it gets a little bit of an extra buff with the Froslass damage tick and the Munkidori removal, but if you don't have like 3 or 4 Munkidoris, it's not an easy thing to do. But it does have promise, and I do think that it could be a viable deck. It's also probably going to be, I'll probably put it in A, because it did have a great showing at Worlds. It made top 64. I think it was 17th best placement, and Flareon Box got like 24th. So I'd probably put that a little bit above. Future Box. So this one is like, I would guess, probably, I don't know, Joltik Box, because it does play the Iron Hands. However, it's just, I see the damage boost. I mean, I see the boost with Iron Crown, or Iron Crown. I see it with the Ampy very much for an extra prize. And if you have a full bench of 5 Iron Crown, that's an extra 100 damage to Ampy very much. And if your opponent already has any damage on them, and you're moving that over, you're taking 3 prizes in one turn on a basic like Raging Bolt or Ogerpon, which is crazy. For me, probably here for me, because it does have like that. It doesn't have the most HP and can still be taken down pretty easily, because once you lose the Iron Crown engine, you're kind of in a rough spot. So I would probably say high B, low A. Yeah. Now we're gonna move on to Gardevoir. I'm gonna treat this as the core Gardevoir, because there is a dedicated Enzoroark deck in this list. I think it is, yeah, right here, Enzoroark. So Gardevoir, it won Worlds, I think. Yeah, Henry Chow won Worlds. S tier deck. Don't even need to explain it. If you played against it, you know it's horrible to play against. It's just so good. Yeah, S tier. We don't even need to talk about this one. Boom. Won Worlds. No, don't even need to talk about it. Next one, Gouging Fire. Reshiram deck. You play it with Reshiram. However, I do think that Zekrom was a better addition than Reshiram to those respective decks. So it's going to go like, I don't know, very high C. Just because there's not as much fire, energy, acceleration, or support as there was. So, high C. Hop Zacian. I see the vision with this deck. Attack with Zacian to spread damage to the bench and stuff. However, that's easily counterable with Munkidori, and that's where it loses a little bit of its, spark or charm. But in the end, it's a viable deck. Cramorant for either late game attacking or stuff. It's very good, but it's very niche. It has good matchups, it has bad matchups. So it's like probably here in the list. There's a lot of B tiers, like 3 S tiers, 2 A tiers. It's fine. Now we have Hydrapple. Probably C. Festival Lead is slightly better. I get the point of Hydrapple, but it's okay. Hydreigon. Okay. So if they're talking about the Hydreigon without Tatsugiri, it's like a C tier. But if they're talking about it with Tatsugiri to get it directly into play, I see the vision with that. I can see that it would have. Where did I put that by accident? Where did I put that? Wherever I put it, it's probably fine. Yeah, I don't even know where it went. Yeah, it's fine. Let's go with Joltik Box. So Joltik Box, I think, is a lot better than it was. It had a good. Oh wait, no, there it is. Hydreigon. Yeah, back to it because I realized it went over there. Hydreigon is a good deck with Tatsugiri because you can just get it like with Blaziken Greninja directly under the bench. So I'm probably gonna put these two together because they both use the Tatsugiri engine and they're equally good. Azul did a video on that. Go check it out. It was an amazing video. Joltik Box. Good deck. Had a good showing at Worlds. Play with Iron Hands, Dynamotor, and Zekrom for late game. All well-rounded deck. Probably A. Like really low A, really high B. Yeah. It's consistent. As long as you get that Joltik out on the first turn or second turn if you're your second, you can get that energy onto your Iron Hands and you start attacking on like your second or third turn. That's a very powerful, really early game attacker that can, if your opponents don't evolve fully to like their Dragapults or their Gardevoirs or their Goldengos, you're in a very good spot in that game. So A tier. Mamoswine. Now, this is a newer one because it came out with Journey Together. It's been a while, I know, but probably like here for me, maybe here, because I see the vision, but it's just there's so many other meta decks that can have more damage output, have ways to get that damage off, and basically give them more HP and stuff. So, C. Next is my Milotic. It's a walls deck. It's okay. I mean, play Cornerstone Ogerpon, you play Milotic, and you play Farigiraf, and you've basically got the whole trifecta covered except for just base EXs or evolution non-Terra EXs, which are like the bane of your existence. But it does cover for most Pokemon. Like it covers for Dragapult, like I see it, but there are better ways to wall off Pokemon than having to set up 3 different stage 1s that could all have the weakness. So I see the vision, but it's not the best walls deck in the format. So I'm probably gonna put it low B. Enzorark. This is the one with En's Reshiram and En's Darmanitan. Very powerful deck. Probably here. Probably put it at the 5th ranked deck. It's consistent. You get like if your opponent attacks you, you have an insanely powerful attacker because Enzorark works by you use the attack of one of your benched En's Pokemon, and En's Reshiram, it does 30 extra damage for each damage counter on the Pokemon. And if Enzorark has 200 damage, that's 600 damage from the bench, and not even for weakness. So if one of the Pokemon is weak to Dark, that's 1200 damage theoretically. So that is a good consistent deck that just needs a little bit more, and then it's there. Okidogi, not the best way to play Okidogi. If you want to play Okidogi, play the base form and play it with either a walls or just play it by itself because it's more powerful in its base form. So I don't even really know how this one works. I would probably put it like here just because it has some zing to it and it's okay. Palafin. Palafin is a very powerful card by itself, but the way you go and get it is just because you have to have the non-hero form Palafin and then use the ability if one of your Pokemon, I think it was if one of your Pokemon was knocked out on the last turn, you can evolve it into that form of Palafin, which is insanely powerful. 1 energy for 280 is an insane damage ratio, but it only works under a certain condition, so it's very, very hard to set it up truly, and you also have to evolve it from its base form to Palafin, but like the non-hero form. But for me, it is like a middle of the road deck. Maybe like here, I'll put it like probably there, because it's got promise, but it's just not there. Now Archaludon, it just kind of fizzled out. It had like the zing, but it just really never took off at Worlds, pardon me. So I'm probably gonna put it D tier. That's like our second D tier of the whole list. But hey, it's just my opinion. If you disagree, let me know. But next deck, Raging Bolt, one of the best decks. Even my dad plays it. I'm gonna probably put it here, honestly, because it has incredible swing damage. It's got an incredible system. It worked insanely well with Status Vitality, almost too well. It's a generally consistent deck. I think it won Worlds in a division. I'm not sure. I think it might have been juniors or seniors, but I'll check for sure later. However, it's a great deck, and you should definitely play it if you like big basic swing decks. Now we move to Roaring Moon. This one is similar to Ancient Box in the fact that it plays the base Roaring Moon, but it just plays the EX version instead. Now there's promise to this if you play it with like a Bravery Charm, because what it does is its first attack knocks out the active Pokemon, and it does 200 damage to itself. So you're knocking out. So it even works on wall Pokemon that wall off EXs, but you're still doing 200 damage to yourself. So you're easily KOable the next turn, and you still have to accelerate 3 more energy onto one of your base Pokemon. So it's really like not the most effective way to win games is by basically eliminating yourself, but I would definitely put it over Ancient Box just because it's a better form of that deck with the EX version. Okay? Alright, now we move on to a couple decks that I haven't heard of as much. This is Sinistcha. It came around Twilight Masquerade, best set of all time, has the Greninja in it. Sinistcha, I mean, it's got promise. It plays Ogerpon. Ogerpon is a good deck. Matcha Gotcha is a good attack. So I probably put it above Azumarill and Blissey, but behind everything in C, just because I don't really know the engine. I'm still learning. Slowking, honestly, I've never even heard of this deck, but I'll put it above Iono's Belly Bolt. Just the only reason it's there, never heard of it. I can't even really read the text on it because the picture's so small. But yeah, it's okay. It's not the worst. It's not the best, but probably okay. Now we move on to Terrabox. Terrabox is like EVBox, but with the Ogerpons instead. So you play with Cornerstone and Wellspring. It's similar. I probably put it similar, maybe like this. Flareon, Future Box, Terrabox. Probably put it in the last because Flareon just takes Terrabox to another level because it still plays the same cards, but it has a better main attacker, and you have that backup Wellspring attacker to knock out their Munkidori's or their benched like under 120 HP Pokemon, and I definitely get that. And I think I've just thought up another way you could play it. You could play Wellspring with Blaziken to re-accelerate those energy you have to discard to do that 120 damage. So that's a thought. Maybe go try it. Alright, next deck. Terapagos Boufflant. I saw a Tim Danklin video where he brought this deck to, I think it was a regional, but he did pretty good. Probably put this here because it does. You play it with Area 0, you do a bunch of damage. If you have 8 on the bench, it's definitely insane. You also have that damage resistance with Boufflant, and that even buffs it even more. So definitely here, it's a good, viable deck. I mean, it's not the worst, not the best. Has its weaknesses, has its gains, but it's still a good deck, and you should definitely try it if you're interested. Alright, next one. The World's 2024 winner, I believe, Iron Thorns. It lost Double Colorless, it lost Hisuian Heavy Ball, but it's still a good deck. I mean, if you play with Ancient Booster Energy Capsule, has Free Retreat, has 30 plus health, it's still a good card. So, and also Retreat Locks, and that helps against some of the best meta decks like Zoroark or Gardevoir, because as long as it's in the active, they can't attack. Unless they play things like Neutralization Zone or Jamming Tower, which are not... I mean, like, Jamming Tower is played, but Neutralization Zone, which takes away all abilities, would still nerf them, so they wouldn't have their abilities anyway. So, in the end, this deck it's viable. Definitely viable. So, top of B for me. Tinkaton, I haven't really heard of it. We're just going to skip over it because we're trying to get to the last couple decks. Probably put Wailord there. These are all like just kind of wild card decks. Don't know this one. Don't know that one. Alright, the final two decks that are bigger. First one, we got Ethan's Typhlosion. Definitely a good deck. It was played to very few numbers at Worlds, but it's got potential. So I'm probably going to put it like above Joltik Box, below Frostlass Munkidori. Ah, why did I do that? Alright, we'll put it right there. The very last deck, and the deck that I play, it is Crustle. Crustle is a very, very viable deck against a lot of the top matchups. Like, the only matchup you have trouble into on here is Dragapult Dusknoir, and there are versions of Dragapult, most versions actually, that do not play Dusknoir. And that's pretty much an auto win for most of these decks because they really can't do anything. Especially with decks like I have really good matchups into Zoroark, Charizard, Goldengo, base Dragapult, and Bolt, but like the only matchup that we lose in is Gardevoir. So, and Ethan's Typhlosion. Like most of these decks across the board, besides like let's say Feraligatr, Festival Lead, Sinistcha, Caparaja, and Slowking. That's like the only decks we lose to out of these like I don't know like 25 decks. So in the end, it's probably an 8. Like we even beat Joltik Box. Why'd I put that there? Like Joltik Box and all that stuff. So I probably put it probably A tier because it beats. Like it's the only thing holding it back from like a S tier is its weaknesses to Gardevoir and Gardevoir and Typhlosion. So I'd probably put it here. It's a viable deck, but it does have its weaknesses. So yeah, this is my tier list for 2025. Let me know what you think. I think I'm kind of happy with this. There might be a few things I would change around, but this is what it is for now. So yeah, hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.